Hey everyone, this is RedEyes Matt Pais in Chicago. I am on the phone with Kathleen Hanna from Bikini Kill, Les Tigre, The Julie Ruin, and the new film The Punk Singer. Hi Kathleen.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. Where are you talking to me from?
I am in a basement in New York City at the publicist office for the film.
That might be the most specific answer I've ever received to that question.
And I'm looking at a picture of the dude from, that famous movie that I can't remember.
Big Lebowski.
Yes,
I think that will put you in
that's my
a
visual.
that will put you in an excellent state of mind for this interview. Have you spent much time in Chicago, Kathleen? Do you have any favorites here? Things you like to do when you are here?
Oh, yeah. My favorite thing to do is to go to all the thrift stores because you guys have amazing thrift stores and they love to get really wet burritos in Chicago.
Did you say wet burritos?
Yes, there's this one place that I always go to that makes these really kind of like wet burritos. Like in New York, you get these really like dry burritos. I can't describe it, but they put like extra cheese and extra sauce and extra everything in them. I guess the other thing I really love about Chicago is they love all the signs, like the signage everywhere, like funeral home signs and, drugstore signs. Like, there's a lot of old-fashioned signs there. I don't know if you noticed that because you live there, but I'm always amazed by it.
Well, I found the punk singer really interesting, and something that came to mind, which is somewhat depressing, is the fact that, the movie deals with some things that happened, say, 20 years ago, and a lot of the women's issues are still very prevalent, and the music industry is not better. How should I feel about that?
I think you should be pissed, and you should start a petition on change.org. No, you should go out in the street and scream. I don't know. I mean, I feel totally crazy. I feel the same way I did in the 90s. I'm like, really? You're challenging abortion again? Like, what other amendments are we going to just go after? It's absolutely insane. And, I hear these young girls who are in bands talking about the sexism and the racism that they're experiencing, and I'm just like, really annoyed. But at the same time, I go to shows, and there actually is female participation. There's way more women in bands. There's way more women in audiences. Like, when we first started playing, there'd be, 3 women, maybe 5 women at a show. And that's something positive that's really changed. And the other thing is just that women in bands are talking about what they're experiencing. They might not be writing songs about it, but when they do press, they're like, I'm experiencing this sexism on the internet, or, I feel like as a woman of color, I'm put in this one box and I don't want to be in that box. So it's great that that's happening because I didn't see that happening in the 90s. I wanted to end on a positive note. That question.
Well, on the overall spectrum of how far there is to go between some of the stuff in the movie and how far we've come since then, can you give a sense of if you feel like that's covered a lot of the ground, or if you feel like we're 25% of the way there of what needs to change?
I think that it's always, one step forward, one step back. Like, history really is not linear. It goes through waves of, and especially with feminism, where people are really interested in it. Again, and I think now is one of those times. I mean, Miley Cyrus just came out saying, I'm one of the biggest feminists in the world. Like, when does it happen that, a young pop star does that? Whether you love her or you hate her, it's pretty interesting that she's using that word in such a mainstream context. And,
were you happy when you heard that, or not happy?
Yeah, I think it's really great. I think it's really, whether, like I said, I don't know how I feel about her as a performer. I like that Party in the USA song a lot, but I haven't really heard anything else from her really or paid attention. I didn't see the VMA performance, so I don't really have any comment on that, but I just think that people are talking and that girls are seeing this film or reading the Riot Grrrl collection book that came out, or Sarah Marcus, this woman wrote a book about Riot Grrrl, and they're getting interested in like punk rock feminism, and then reading other books, getting interested in women's studies, and it really does kind of come in these 20-year waves where people who were doing super active, like maybe in the 90s, are now older and hopefully wiser, and are able to step back and write books about what we were doing. And then younger people are able to kind of benefit from that and be like, oh, here's the great stuff they did, and here's the ways that they messed up, and to do something better.
Well, I just didn't know if you thought, because I'm not quite sure what Miley Cyrus meant by that, and I didn't know if you thought it was a good thing for anyone with that amount of attention to use the word feminism and try to represent something, or if it can be a bad thing if what you think that is, or what you think you're standing for, is actually going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought that there's just as many different kinds of feminism as there are, people in the world. So, whatever, if she thinks she's a feminist, she's a feminist. Like, I'm not the police. I'm not gonna, say she's not a member of the secret club, because there is no secret club. It's like. So there's no
feminist police that anyone should be watching out for?
No, we are not coming after you anytime soon that I know of. And hopefully no one is coming after Miley Cyrus. I know she was very, kind of slut-shamed about whatever she did with Robin Thicke on TV. But, again, I didn't see it, so I can't really comment on it. I just heard, people saying, she was slutty or whatever. But I think, as I said before, it's any time a girl or a woman who's that much in the mainstream even uses that word, now we're having a conversation about it. And that's what's really great, is when people start having conversations. I mean, people started having conversations about gay marriage. I never ever thought I would live in my life to see gay marriage be legal anywhere. But it started with a conversation, and now it's happening. And so that's kind of, I guess, how I feel about the word feminism being in the mainstream. I mean, there was an episode of Scandal, which is such a hugely popular TV show, and I love it because I love watching Kerry Washington do that weird thing with her face that she does. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but and her crazy clothes. But there was this whole thing where they talked about sexism, and I was really blown away because you just don't see that except for maybe once in a while on MSNBC.
I think a lot of people, certainly our readers, will be interested in the Smells Like Teen Spirit stuff, not defining of you or your career in any way. It's just an interesting footnote. But I'm wondering, because there's been so much attention on that one incident, I'm wondering if there's a story that maybe you haven't told about that friendship that might resonate with people.
I mean, I guess the thing that was really interesting to me was that there was a time in Olympia, Washington, where things felt very electric, and Nirvana was very much a part of that. We were there when Dave first showed up and became the new drummer and was sleeping on Kurt's couch. And, Kurt was a hard nut to crack. He could be really quiet, and he got pissed at me a couple times. And, but...
About what?
Do you remember what about... I don't want to say because I feel like it would be disrespectful.
Okay.
I feel like it would be disrespectful to him to
talk
about the argument. But I will say this, that, there was a time where we shared lyrics that we were writing with each other that was really special to me because I'd never done that before. And we actually played a kind of a game that was that game called, what the fuck? I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on your thing. But, it's called Something Corpse. I'm having a total space out. It's the game where you, take a piece of paper, Exquisite Corpse, and you, one person draws the legs, and then they fold it over, and then another person draws the torso, and they fold it over, and then the other person draws the head. And then you pull out the paper, and then you see what person that you guys drew. But you don't see what the other person was drawing when you're drawing your thing. You just see the last line. And we did that with lyrics one day, and it was really fun, like, where he would write some lines and fold it over, and I would just see the last line that he had written, and then I would write. And I had just these weird, like, little mini writing workshops with them that were, you know, the first time that I put myself out in that way in front of somebody, you know, like, showed them my fucking journal.
Do you recall anything specific that came out of there, even if it was just like one?
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, I don't remember what the lyrics we were working on were, like the songs or anything like that. I just remember sitting in an apartment and, you know, playing that weird game and talking about lyrics, and him showing me some stuff and me showing him some stuff, and it being the first time that I'd ever done that with anybody, and so that was kind of a special memory.
Sure.
You know, we really lost touch before he passed away, a lot, because, you know, I don't do heroin, and it's really hard to be around people who are users if you're not a user.
I thought it was really interesting, something you said recently. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just walk right past a person and have a great day, but sometimes you feel like you really need to say something. At this point in your life, how do you feel like you know the difference between when you need to step up and speak out and when you need to hold your tongue and move on?
You know, I'm still really bad at that. I actually got up in this woman's face and called her some really bad names today because she was yelling at these people behind the counter at a deli, calling them idiots. And she was being totally awful and telling them the way that they were cooking her food was disgusting, that they were disgusting and they were idiots. And I was just like, her behavior was horrifying. And we ended up not getting our food because she was like just acting like such a jerk that we just left. But as we were walking away, I just walked right up to her and told her what I thought of her, and then walked away. And it was partially because, you know, the people working behind the counter maybe couldn't say, hey, I think you're a real jerk, because they could lose their jobs. But I wasn't working, and I had the ability to say that. And if I worked there, I would want to see another customer, walk up and tell that person what an asshole they were. And I did. I told her she was an asshole, and some other choice words, which I won't repeat.
Was it the kind of like cinematic thing where everyone started applauding, or what happened?
Oh, where what? People started clapping?
Like, yeah, was there any reaction? Did everyone start applauding?
No. I mean, I actually had a meeting, and I was supposed to be there in 5 minutes, so I didn't stick around to see what happened afterwards. I really felt like at that point, they should have called security on her. So I was just like, I kind of wanted to go back after I was done with my meeting and see what had happened, but I was so grossed out by her behavior, and like, I'm still, even right now, I'm like thinking of her face. Like, you know, people who go to Starbucks and they treat the people who work there like total crap, and they're like, I said a double tall skinny latte with foam. Like, I find those people insufferable.
I think it would be difficult to find someone who would stand up and say, I love those people.
But I do try to, if I think somebody might have a weapon on them, I don't say something. You know, if I think like they might be really crazy, like she actually wasn't really crazy, she was just an asshole. And if it's somebody who's really crazy who might have a weapon on them, that's when I don't say anything.
Well, on the subject of intervening and expressing your opinion, I really found it interesting, you know, in the movie, your relationship with Adam and what happens with MTV Awards. And I'm wondering if you think that he would have made those comments about sexual assault at Woodstock if not for your influence.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, absolutely not. I mean, I was like, you are lucky you get to make this speech. You know, I mean, you're probably, you know, going to get this award, so you should say something. And he totally agreed with me. I mean, he was angry about it. It wasn't, like, false, but it was my idea that he say something. And, you know, he did. But there was another time where a writer called his band out on something homophobic that they had done when they were much younger, and he took out a piece of paper and wrote a letter to the magazine and apologized for being homophobic when he was younger, and apologized to the gay community, and that was him. So we are a team.
I totally appreciate what you said in the movie about you can't decide who you fall in love with. But obviously you had opinions about things that the Beastie Boys had said. Was that something that became like a conversation topic here and there? I mean, I'm married, but if in another universe I started dating a rapper and she had said all this stuff that I didn't agree with, like, for me, that would, even if I was falling in love with her, that would be like a hurdle that kind of had to be acknowledged,
Yeah. Of course, it had to be acknowledged. It's been joked about, it's been acknowledged, it's been, painful to, have to see or hear some of that stuff that he did a long time ago and just kind of feel like grossed out for a second. But then I'm like, that's not who I fell in love with. Like, that's some weird whippersnapper bratty kid who didn't know any better. And I'm really, really proud of him, and I'm really proud of his band, because they, in a way, were kind of the king of the dudes. And they made the decision to change, and to change publicly, and to say, hey, we've made mistakes, and this is who we are now. And I think that's really positive, and I think it's really great that, think of all the frat dudes who were so into, like, Licensed Ill or whatever, and then got into Paul's Boutique, and then maybe saw Adam make that speech about Woodstock and, like, kind of reconsidered some things that they thought about women, or, I think it's really positive that people change in public, and you don't have to, it's not hypocritical that you once were like this and now you're this different person. Like, we age and we change and we grow, and that's a good thing.
And you can't blame someone that you are together with for their past or hold that against them necessarily.
I mean, it can annoy me. You know what I mean? But it's like, it's the one way that I think about it is if, like, somebody was filming me and I was writing songs when I was, like, 17, like, I'm sure there'd be tons of shit I would be embarrassed about, too. If he didn't feel weird about it or embarrassed, there'd be a problem. But I didn't tell him to feel that way. They had already, like, stopped doing certain songs in their set, and because they thought they were sexist. They were confronting sexism in other bands as well, and they did that without my prompting. I met Mike D actually before I met Adam, and he was really, really interested in Riot, Grrrl, and feminism, and wanted to know more. And it was really great to have a guy that was so interested and wanted to know, like, how do you think we can make our crowd safer for women? And we had a lot of really nice talks about it, and I appreciated their interest early on. So it wasn't like I brought this thing to them. Like, they were already in the process of change.
Mm-hmm. Obviously we can't predict the future, but I have to ask, you talked about the way that women's rights have still come up in politics, and the Republican Party has gone after that stuff. A lot of people seem to think if you ask them who's going to win in 2016, Hillary would probably be towards the top of their list. Do you see that being that would be a humongous moment for the country and for women? Do you think that would have a long-lasting impact on feminism? I know that's a pretty large question.
I probably maybe before Obama was elected would have said yes, but seeing how his presidency has been completely blocked, and knowing that actually there was, I think, the first black mayor in Chicago, the same identical thing happened where everything tried to pass was filibustered. And, they're basically making it like he's not really the president because they won't let him do anything. They just tie his hands, and I feel would be worried that they do the same thing with Hillary. When Hillary was running in the primaries here, there were a lot of really sexist posters all over New York City. New York City, interrupt. We've got 2 minutes left. Great. Really sexist posters about her, and that really disturbed me greatly. But I would just be worried that, you know, the same thing would happen and Republicans would just block everything that she did so that they could later do what they're going to do to Obama and say that she was ineffectual. So I hate to be a downer. You know, I voted for Obama, but I would definitely like to see Hillary be in the White House more than Chris Christie or any Republican. But I'm not sure what would happen because it's not like Obama being, you know, president made racism go away, so I don't see why Hillary being president would make sexism go away. And I think in a way it does a disservice because it makes people say, well, look, you know, there's an African American man as president, so how can you guys complain anymore about racism? And that makes me really sad because there's so many conversations about race that really, really need to be taking place, especially today with recent events that have happened, like that girl looking for help after a car accident and being shot in the face.
Yeah, I
don't
think
know if you read about that.
I think that's a fantastic point. I interviewed Forrest Whitaker about Lee Daniels, the butler, and was making the case for why I didn't really think it was right that the movie makes people walk out and feel great about where we're at. And he was asserting, like, that it ends at the election of Obama, and that was great, and people had hope, and that is okay. I was like, well, yeah, but that didn't happen yesterday.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. And things have, you know, taken a real sharp turn. Like, Sarah Palin's back on TV now? What? Go away. Like, anyways, I gotta go. They're waving me off.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Kathleen. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
A lot of the women's issues are still very prevalent, and the music industry is not better. How should I feel about that?
I think you should be pissed, and you should start a petition on change.org. No, you should go out in the street and scream. I don't know. I mean, I feel totally crazy. I feel the same way I did in the 90s. I'm like, really? You're challenging abortion again? Like, what other amendments are we going to just go after?
Hey everyone, this is RedEyes Matt Pais in Chicago. I am on the phone with Kathleen Hanna from Bikini Kill, Les Tigre, The Julie Ruin, and the new film The Punk Singer. Hi Kathleen.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. Where are you talking to me from?
I am in a basement in New York City at the publicist's office for the film. You guys have amazing thrift stores, and they love to get really wet burritos in Chicago.
Did you say wet burritos?
Yes. There's this one place that I always go to that makes these really kind of like wet burritos. Like in New York, you get these really like dry burritos. I can't describe it, but they put like extra cheese and extra sauce and extra everything in them. I guess the other thing I really love about Chicago is they love...
That might be the most specific answer I've ever received to that question.
And I'm looking at a picture of the dude from, you know, that famous movie that I can't remember.
Big Lebowski.
Yes.
I think that will put you
That's
in
my visual.
That will put you in an excellent state of mind for this interview. Have you spent much time in Chicago, Kathleen? Do you have any favorites here? Things you like to do when you are here?
Oh, yeah. My favorite thing to do is to go to all the thrift stores because you have all the signs, like the signage everywhere, like funeral home signs and, you know, drugstore signs. Like, there's a lot of old-fashioned signs there. I don't know if you noticed that because you live there, but I'm always amazed by it.
Well, I found The Punk Singer really interesting, and something that came to mind, which is somewhat depressing, is the fact that, you know, the movie deals with some things that happened, say, 20 years ago, and